Okay, I hope you can see this. So I'm going to describe sort of this early alpha version of AuthoritySpoke, which is a Python library for legal analysis. It does include models of legislative rules, but compared to most of the other presentations I've seen, this presents them much more through the lens of judicial interpretation. So you can use this to create opinion objects by downloading opinion records from the Harvard Case Access Project API. And most of the examples here are based on a few rules that can be found in the Oracle versus Google case, which had to do with the copyrightability of APIs. So it involved interpretations of the Copyright Act. And an earlier case that was cited in Oracle called Lotus v. Borland. So sounds like somebody has me unmuted. To add rule objects to the opinion objects, currently the input format is a JSON format that involves listing sort of generic entities that are going to be mentioned, and then listing a series of rules, sort of like this, in terms of inputs and outputs, and also factors that can be considered failed undercutters, I guess, despite factors. Also, rules are described in terms of whether they're mandatory for the court to apply, and also whether they're universal in the sense that the court is saying anytime the inputs that have been listed are present, then the rule has to apply. So here's an example of the string representation of one holding. It has sort of a result, and then the inputs are listed with given. And there's also the legislative text that justifies the rule here. And you can access the inputs. This concept of generic factors would be entities that are mentioned in a rule, like for instance, the Java API, but it's generic in the sense that it could be replaced with some other copyrightable work. For instance, with this command, it replaces the Java API with another entity called Nosferatu, which was the subject of a famous copyright case. And then it shows that this rule describing the Oracle case is equal, it means the same as the same rule with different generic entities substituted in. There's also a feature to determine whether rules imply one another, and also whether they contradict one another. One way to determine that rules imply one another is that if a rule is based on a subset of the legislative text from another rule, but it's otherwise the same, then it would imply the other rule, because you're sort of making a stronger claim about what the law is if you say that a certain outcome is possible based on a shorter passage of legislative text. So that's what's going on here. I've overloaded the greater than operator to mean implies, or the greater than or equal operator. And I'll also show contradictions. So this could be relevant for a task like creating a citator. Here I'm checking whether this Oracle case contradicts the Lotus case at all, and I just get a true, which is maybe not helpful. But so now I'm checking whether a particular rule within the Lotus case is contradicted by any of the rules from the Oracle case. And so I've done that test for each of these, and there's only one where a contradiction is found. And then you can sort of see the text of that. It's pretty long, so I won't go into it in the explanation of why I think that it is a contradiction.
Okay.